Deputy Speaker, as others said, those officers just do not have a leg to stand on in this debate. They're the only beavers not to build a dam. Oh, we'll get onto that. We'll get onto that indeed. They should look into a mirror before they elected this government on transport and infrastructure policy in this country. Deputy Speaker, transport history will remind us that it was those opposite that stood by as Virgin collapsed into administration. It was those opposite that oversaw the mass outsourcing of jobs and a labour hire mess that drove down wages and conditions across the sector, a mess that we are now fixing in this government. It was those opposite that commissioned the Harris Review into Sydney Airport, only to spend almost 2 years sitting on it, leaving it to us to sort it out. It was those opposite that cut JobKeeper from Donata workers and left those families in the lurch across the country. They gave billions of taxpayer dollars to Qantas for nothing in return. Deputy Speaker, those opposite have now suddenly decided that the Qatar Airways decision, the same decision that they largely approved while in government, is now unacceptable. Well, Deputy Speaker, before we start to feel sorry for this multi-billion-dollar airline, it's worth noting that Qatar could increase their capacity into Australia tomorrow. I remind the House that Qatar Airways operated flights between Doha and Canberra via Sydney for several years before the pandemic. Qatar could restart here and immediately gain an additional slot into Sydney and be welcomed by the hundreds of thousands of residents in the capital region with open arms. Deputy Speaker, speaking with tourist bodies here in this region, like the National Capital Attractions Association, it's clear to me that the restart of long-haul international flights out of Canberra would be a commercial success. The same arrangements go for flights into Adelaide, Darwin, Cairns and the Gold Coast. And because of a decade of wasted aviation policy, the Albanese government is now delivering on its election commitment of an aviation white paper to set the scene for the next generation of growth and development across the domestic aviation sector. But, Deputy Speaker, those opposite love the announcement of infrastructure projects but always fell short on funding and delivering them. As I said before, lots of beavers that couldn't build dams. Over the first 8 years of the Abbott-Turnbull-Morrison government, its broken promises on infrastructure alone totalled an incredible $7.4 billion. Under the former government, the number of infrastructure projects in the pipeline blew out from nearly 150 to 800, but their appetite for announcing projects wasn't matched with a commitment to deliver them. Projects were left without adequate funding or resources, projects without real benefits to the public were approved, and the clogged pipeline has caused delays and overruns in other important nation-building projects. Many projects under the former government were never even started. Some 160 projects had a commitment of $5 million or less. Yet again, the previous government were all announcement, no delivery. The proper management of the $120 billion infrastructure investment pipeline should lead to projects that are able to be built, that have a lasting benefit for Australia and enhance our economic and social productivity and prosperity. Instead, we're paying the price for a decade of economic mismanagement under those opposite. They left $1 trillion in debt, dozens of essential government programs without funding, and infrastructure projects substantially underfunded. Take the construction of the John Gordon Bridge in the Molonglo Valley in my electorate of Bean. 3 years ago, those opposite got out the high-vis and shiny shovels and announced the project. But the $172 million contract to actually build the bridge, which is jointly funded by the ACT government, was only signed in February this year under the Albanese Labor government. Those opposite announced it, but it was this government that committed the funding, and it will be this government delivering the project. The former government preferred to invest in imaginary car parks in marginal seats over major projects with the potential to drive Australia's future economic growth. As a government, we on this side are committed to ensuring freight keeps moving, people can get home safely from work, and that the connections between our cities and our regions are strong. Deputy Speaker, the Albanese government's investment is already delivering critical nation-shaping projects across the country. Those opposite instead delivered announcements, many repeated announcements, rorts and nation-crippling debt.